Geordies, hope everyone's well and welcome back to another scouting episode. Yesterday we did Liam Delap. Today we're going to be doing another player that we are being linked with. Somebody that we've been linked with in the past before we moved to the Premier League. So this will be interesting. And also tomorrow, actually not tomorrow because I'm quite busy, Saturday, we're going to be doing another player that we're interested in. But for today, we're going to be looking at Brighton's João Pedro. On Saturday, we're going to look at Bryan Mbeumo. So if you're interested in that and want to see him compared to Jacob Murphy, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on another episode. But yesterday we did Liam Delap. Today we're doing a different kind of forward. So it's interesting what kind of profile Eddie Howe will go with, because João Pedro is a different kind of forward to what Liam Delap is. It looks like, if yesterday is to be believed, that Liam Delap is very, very close to moving to Chelsea. So it doesn't look like he's coming to Newcastle. So it might actually be João Pedro. So we're going to look at him, look at his strengths, weaknesses, and see if he is worth that 50 million. So João Pedro was born on the 26th September 2001, which makes him 23 at the moment. He stands at 6 foot. He's made over 200 senior appearances, and he's missed 160 days, 32 games through injury throughout his senior career. Pedro was born in Ribeirão Preto. One interesting thing about Pedro, he didn't have the best upbringings. His dad was actually sent to prison for 16 years in 2002, serving 8 for being an accessory to murder. So for him to reach where he's got to with that kind of upbringing is really respectable. So João Pedro joined the Fluminense Academy, and him and his mother moved to Rio de Janeiro. And funny enough, João Pedro actually started as a defensive midfielder. As he rose through the academy, he changed from a defensive midfielder to an attack midfielder and now a striker, which is probably why he's so versatile. On the 19th of October 2018, before he even made a senior debut, Championship side Watford reached an agreement to sign João Pedro in January 2020 on a 5-year deal. October 2019, that's when it was announced that he had received his UK work permit, so that signing would definitely happen. Then after a short but successful spell with Watford, on May the 5th, 2023, Premier League side Brighton confirmed the acquisition of Pedro from Watford for a reported fee of 30 million. He scored 30 goals, had 10 assists for Brighton, but he also brings European experience, having played in the Europa League. So now we're going to break down some of his strengths. And before I talk about his strengths, I've seen somebody's comments saying that he's got a bad attitude. The truth is, right, we can all read between the lines and look at perspectives and judge players, but the truth is, we'll never ever know if he's got a bad attitude unless he's at our club, because we don't know the guy personally. In training, he could be the most joyful, nicest guy you'll ever meet, but once he crosses that white line, that's when he becomes a little bit aggressive. I don't mind that. I don't mind a player that plays on the edge. So just because you can't judge people based on what you've heard, in my opinion, because unless you know the guy, then you truly do not know if he's got a bad attitude or a good attitude. You're just assuming, and I just don't think that's right. Personally, I'm not a guy that judges anybody, so when it comes to stuff like this, hearing about Ryan Cherky's attitude, things like that, I've actually spoken to people that know Ryan Cherky, and they say he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He's just got a bad team around him. So there you go. And if you ask a lot of football fans out there, they'll probably say Ryan Cherky's got a bad attitude. But I'm hearing from people that know him that he hasn't got a bad attitude. So that's what I'm saying. You don't know about these players. You don't know them as a people. So you can't just assume that they've got a bad attitude. And that's one thing I wanted to get out about João Pedro. But the beauty about João Pedro, he can operate in many different roles across the forward line, including a striker. He can play as a wide forward. He tends to play more centrally, so I do prefer him either as a striker or a number 10. He's hardworking, he's creative, he's calm in front of goal, and João Pedro really does have a little bit of everything. When we look at the stats, it will identify that. He's not a traditional number 9 like a Liam Delap. He thrives in linking up play, dropping deep, connecting play, pressing with intensity, and creating space for others as well as himself. What I really like about João Pedro is his movement, intelligent movement. He can find pockets of space. He's adept at moving between the lines. He's often dropping deep to receive the ball on the half turn, and he's making runs in behind the defense. He's constantly on the prowl for space, which I really like. But his movement has a lot of purpose. He's so good at understanding the attacking sequence. He moves into space that would benefit and suit the flow of the attack. When it comes to in possession, he's skillful and he's known for intelligent movement, passing ability, and goal scoring prowess. He's particularly adept at finding space, linking up play, and also possesses natural ability to dribble and maneuver past the defenders. João Pedro is also a pacey forward. He's got got good acceleration, he's got pace over longer distances, so when space is afforded to him, he'll sit on the last shoulder of the defender and make runs in behind. However, he's got such a high football IQ, like I've just mentioned. He's constantly dropping deep and linking up midfield to attack, creating overload centrally. When he is linking up play, it seems that he hovers around the left half space, combining with our left-hand side. João Pedro is also technically excellent, receiving on both sides of the feet. He's good at receiving on the half turn. He's good at understanding the pressure and how to evade the pressure. So he's got quick feet, he's got bright movement, he possesses an eye for a pass, and he can also dribble past opponents with ease. His ability to take on opponents in one-on-one situations is truly remarkable. Skilled at beating opponents, creating openings. This forces defenders to adapt, providing opportunities for his team to exploit. So when he's on the ball, he naturally draws attention towards him, which frees up other players. Another reason why he thrives in dropping deep and receiving the ball is his ability to deliver telling through balls. Then when it comes to inside the penalty area, while he's not an out-and-out poacher, does possess composure inside the box and the ability to score from various different situations, which makes him a genuine goal threat. When he's in the box, João Pedro makes good runs into dangerous areas, he times his run wells, and he's good at anticipating crosses. So the beauty about João Pedro, his presence brings a Brazilian flair, a lot of creativity, and some unpredictability to his team's attacking options. But as always, guys, there's no finished article in football, and there is some areas for improvement for João Pedro. While he excels in linking up play and operating between the lines, what I want to see more from him is more desire to get in the box, make more runs in the box once you link up play. Sometimes he can pass the ball 5 yards and play a teammate in, but then he stands and watches his pass. I want to see him getting in the box more frequently, but I must add, he's technically outstanding and he's superb at manufacturing chances for himself. So he's got this ability to receive the ball inside the box, drop his shoulder, and just create that yard of space so he can get a shot off. He's so good at manipulating opponents when he's in possession. One thing I will say about João Pedro, he's deceivingly strong, but if you can just strengthen his core a little bit more and improving his overall physique, this could make him more dominant in duels, but also more difficult to dispossess. I'm actually a big fan of his finishing. He's got a variety of different finishes. He can finish first time, he can have a deft touch and then accurately find the bottom corner. But what I will say is, he needs to improve his finishing by getting into better goal-scoring positions. This will allow him to be more decisive in front of goal. João Pedro is also extremely hard working out of possession, but he could benefit on understanding when to engage into a challenge and when not to. Sometimes he does give away needless free kicks, and at times in possession he can be over ambitious with his dribbling, trying to take on that extra man when sometimes it's better just to lend the ball off and look for a return. But in a nutshell, João Pedro's ability to combine with teammates, make the use of his natural intelligent movement, makes him a natural fit for a pressing heavy setup, something that Newcastle United are renowned for. So now we're going to look at a few statistics, and I mentioned that he's so good at manipulating players, just maneuvering around opponents or baiting them into a challenge so he can step aside and have a little drop of the shoulder. João Pedro has won the most penalties in the Premier League this season with 9. Surprisingly, Anthony Gordon's won 8. But if we move it on, when I say he works hard out of possession, he ranks 5th out of all the strikers for pressures in the final third. He also ranks 5th for pressures in the final third resulting in turnovers. Newcastle United want their strikers to press aggressively because we want to win the ball up as high up the pitch, because if the closer to their goal you overturn the ball, the better chance you have of creating a good goal-scoring opportunity. But surprisingly, just ranks a little bit lower than Alexander Isak. I mentioned he's got composure. He's also got a little bit of swagger about him, which I really like in a striker, especially a Brazilian striker. But when it comes to conversion rate, he ranks high, the first out of anybody in the Premier League this season with 44.4%, which is absolutely outstanding. When it comes to minutes per goal, he ranks 4th out of all the strikers in the Premier League this season with 92.5. Only John Duran, Erling Haaland and Johan Wissa are ahead of him. Okay, so when we talk about his shot locations, this is exactly what I mean. As you can see, all of his goals this season have come very centrally. When he's taking pops off from outside the width of the post or outside the box, he's not scoring. But one pleasing and positive sign, he is overachieving his expected goals. He scored 10 goals. He was only expected to score 8.9, which is very impressive. He's slightly over, but he's still over. But as you can see from his goal locations, that he works best when he's centrally. So I would like to see him have more hunger just to get in that penalty area, in and around that 6-yard box, because he's so innovative and he's so agile. He can get on crosses so effectively. Now, one thing you will get from João Pedro, he's very, very good at creating chances. And this is his chance creation this season. He's created 30 chances. 6 of them have come into assists. But as you can see, I spoke about his willingness to get into that left half space. Most of his chances that are created come from that left-hand side. Now, one thing Newcastle United have started doing is having their left winger come inside a lot more. You'll often see Harvey Barnes getting into the box, Anthony Gordon getting into the box a lot more than you will Jacob Murphy. So will this be problematic because they'll both be making the same run? That is something to consider. But when it comes to heat maps, this is exactly what I was meaning about him just hovering around that left half side. As you can see, he's the majority or the heavier touches come in that left half space, because what he likes to do is get on the ball. This allows him to go on the outside and look for a cutback, but it also allows him to come inside onto his stronger right foot, wait and get a shot off. And that's why he's so comfortable in that left half space. But his heat map does suggest that he gets involved in the play a very, very lot. So with a striker like João Pedro, he's not that striker that will hold up the ball as such like a Liam Delap. He's that striker that will use intricate passes to link up play. So when you're playing with a striker like João Pedro, you've got to have midfield runners, because without midfield runners, he's got no options. And that is why he's thrived at Brighton, because Brighton are so good at having runners from deep. And that's exactly what you need with João Pedro, because he's got the vision and the execution to find them, to slip little intricate balls in behind the defenses. So when it comes to statistically looking at how he compares to Alexander Isak and also Callum Wilson, don't forget about Callum Wilson. Well, as you can see, João Pedro creates an enormous amount of chances. When it comes to creation, he's absolutely excellent. But where he does need to improve is his goal threat. And this is what I was talking about. I want to see him have more desire getting in the penalty area. Often at times you'll see him just hovering around the edge of the penalty area. I want him to get in that box. So if he is to step in for while Alexander Isak's having a rest, or if they're playing together, I want to see him getting in that 6-yard box a lot more. But you can see the well-roundedness he brings. His goal efficiency, his goal threat isn't too bad, to be fair. He's progressive in his play and he recovers the ball very, very well. As you can see, Alexander Isak doesn't do much ball recoveries, whereas João Pedro does. And that's what I was talking about, how hard he works out of possession. He doesn't mind tracking back. So when we'll break it down to some individual stats and comparing them to strikers across Europe, not just the Premier League, this is how he fares. And as you can see, he's in the top 10 percentile for shot creating actions per 90. He's creating 3.33 shots per 90, which is exceptional. And what I really like about João Pedro, I talk about him having that ability to manipulate the opponents. He's got the ability to bait the opponents into a challenge, and then he just rides past them. He draws many fouls in the final third, and that's a very good quality, because when you are under the cosh, sometimes you just need that little bit of respite, and he can certainly provide that. But also, he draws a lot of fouls in dangerous areas. So if you've got a good penalty taker, which we do, or good free kick taker, which at times we do, that can be the difference between winning a game and losing a game. Now, the one weakness on this screen that I want to see more of from my centre forwards, I want to see him have more shots. Like I mentioned earlier, get in that penalty area more, be more of a threat inside the box. He's only averaging 1.9, pretty much 2 shots per game. If I'm looking at that, I want my striker to at least be averaging 3 shots per game, at least. But where his statistics do come very, very pleasing is his possession, so his ball retention and his passing ability. As you can see, across forwards in Europe, he ranks so highly amongst everything. He's pretty much in the top 10 percentile for everything you want in a forward. When it comes to touches, he's in the top 4 percentile. Most of his touches come in the attacking third, but he's not bad in the middle third. So that just goes to show his ability to come and receive the ball. When it comes to progressiveness, carries in the final third, carries in the penalty area, passes in the final third, key passes in the penalty area, crosses in the penalty area, progressive passes. Honestly, I could go on for days. He's absolutely outstanding with the ball at his feet, which just goes to show that he does 9 times out of 10 make the right decisions. What I truly admire about João Pedro, I think he's got this this edge to his game, which I like. He's got this arrogance to his game, which I really like in a striker. What I really like is how progressive he is. He's always looking to cause problems. Doesn't just always play the safer pass. He takes risks with his dribbling, but also he's passing, and that just causes chaos in the final third. He's so good at putting his team into a different section, putting his team into dangerous positions, and those statistics there absolutely show it. And this is how his defensive side compares to forwards in Europe, and there's one clear thing: he sits in the top 1% now for offsides. He's very rarely caught offside, which is really pleasing. But as you can see, he's not much of a jeweler. João Pedro is more of a presser than he is an engager. Liam Delap is more of a robust striker. That's the difference. João Pedro is good at blocking out passing lanes and just pressing and turning the opposition into a negative pass, whereas Liam Delap is a real aggressive where he wants to engage. That's a difference in terms of defensive sides between the two. When it comes to aerial duels, he's not the worst out there, but he's not the best out there. He's averaging just shy of 50% of his aerial duels, but he doesn't engage in many either. He's averaging less than 2 headers per 90. So like I say, he's not the best, but he's not the worst, so there's certainly room for improvement. But this is how he compares to Alexander Isak on a statistic point of view. One thing that stands out to me, all of these 10 goals have come inside the box. I want to see him getting in the box more. I can't stress that enough because he's so good and delicate inside the box. He's got such intelligent movement just to find space for himself, hover on the blind side of opponents. I want to see him in the box a lot more because he's got those qualities to act like a poacher. Even though he's not an out-and-out poacher, if he gets into the box more, he's gonna score goals because he's got that instinctive nature in him, which I really like, and he's got the ability to finish cleverly but cutely. And as you can see, he ranks really highly for through balls, but he's also had 2 offsides this season, which is really, really pleasing because he doesn't fizzle out any attacks by being lazy and getting caught offside. And this is how he compares to Alexander Isak. Alexander Isak is a better goal scorer, whereas Pedro's a better creator. As you can see, he's having more passes in the penalty area. He's got that eye for a key pass. Well, Alexander Isak has it, but he doesn't have it as good as João Pedro. When it comes to goal scoring, Alexander Isak is the better goal scorer, in my opinion. But when it comes to overall play and link-up play and attacking actions, you're going to get far more from João Pedro than you are Alexander Isak. So there you go, guys. It's interesting comparing them because he's a different striker to Liam Delap, but he's got the ability to receive the ball like Alexander Isak and have those dribbles and dribble in the final third and dribble in the penalty area. So he's got a little bit of Alexander Isak about him, but quite different as well. But look, for 50 million, is it somebody that you would welcome to St. James's Park? I know Eddie Howe is a fan of him because we're after him when he was at Watford. Look, he went to Brighton. But look, for 50 million, is he somebody that you would welcome at St. James's Park? I know Eddie Howe is a fan of him because we were after him when he was at Watford, so there must be some interest and strengths that Eddie Howe could work with, and I've got no doubt Eddie Howe improves players. We've seen it time and time again. He's so good at working on weaknesses and strengthening weaknesses. So any weaknesses that João Pedro does have, I've got no doubt Eddie Howe would iron out. And one thing Eddie Howe told Alexander Isak, get into the box a lot more. I want to see you score more tap-ins. And Alexander Isak is actually second in Europe for first-time finishers this season. I've got no doubt he would say the same exact thing to João Pedro. And that's my biggest weakness in João Pedro. He doesn't attack the box as much as what I want from my striker. But look, I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know your comments in the below. Would you welcome somebody like João Pedro, or do you think it's better to go for somebody like Liam Delap's profile? Because they're 2 strikers, but they're 2 different types of profiles. One thing that João Pedro does bring is that utility. The utility man, somebody that can play as an attack midfielder. He can play as a wide forward. He can play as a striker. So that would benefit us going into all these competitions next season. So I want to hear your thoughts. Drop me a comment in the below. Don't forget, we've got Brian and Buemo coming out on Saturday because I'm quite busy tomorrow, so I don't think I'll have time to record and edit the video. So let me know your thoughts in the below. But until next time, as always, away the lads.